Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The Sensex and the Nifty end a range-bound session with marginal losses amidst weak global cues. Mid-caps outperformed the blue chips. The Supreme Court rejects Vodafone Idea and Bharti Airtel's pleas seeking waiver of interest and penalty on adjusted gross revenue dues. Calls the petitions misconceived. The decision comes as a setback for Vodafone Idea. The company had cautioned the government that it won't survive beyond FY26 without relief. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyel is in the US as trade negotiations are expected to gather pace. Goyel will meet US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and trade representatives Jameson Greer. Government authorizes emergency procurement of weapons for the armed forces worth up to 24,000 crore rupees. Defence stocks see profit booking after the recent rally amidst concerns over steep valuations. The Enforcement Directorate arrests former UCO Bank CMD Kumar Goyel in connection with the 6,210 crore rupee loan fraud involving a steel company. ED alleges Goyel sanctioned large credit facilities and received substantial illegal kickbacks. The Supreme Court rejects Madhya Pradesh Minister and BJP leader Vijay Shah's apology days after his derogatory remarks against Colonel Sophia Qureshi. The court calls his remarks crass, thoughtless and orders an SIT probe, but stays his arrest. Uber partners with ONDC for an in-app feature to book Delhi metro tickets. Uber is also bringing back food delivery with a new logistics push. Global CTO Praveen Naga says Elon Musk's vision of self-driving cars could be the future of transport. That's an exclusive. Former US President Joe Biden diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer. His office says the cancer appears to be hormone sensitive, which allows for effective management. Prime Minister Modi extends his best wishes to Biden for a quick and full recovery. Well, let's start with the day's market action. The markets closed today mixed with the benchmarks underperforming the broader markets. The Nifty failing to hold on to the 25,000 mark after top blue chip stocks underperformed in today's session. That's the Nifty down by about 74 points. The Sensex lost 270 points. But the Nifty Bank and the Nifty Mid-Cap Index closing flat, though in positive territory. That's the story as far as our markets are concerned. But let's go straight to the top story this evening. Now, the Supreme Court has rejected writ petitions that were filed by Vodafone Idea and Bharti Airtel seeking a waiver of interest and penalty on the adjusted gross revenue dues. The court has called the petitions misconceived. The court has already dismissed curative petitions filed by these companies. Vodafone Idea stock lost nearly 9% after the ruling came in. Now, Ashmit joins us to explain where this leaves Vodafone Idea. Ashmit, take us through what the court order says. And has Vodafone Idea essentially exhausted all legal options now? What could possibly be next?
Well, at least on the question of AGR relief, all doors appear to be shut, at least as of right now. Bear in mind, the Supreme Court dismissing this petition outright. In fact, at one point, Justice who was heading this bench expressing shock as to how such a petition could have been filed even after a curative petition was dismissed. The Supreme Court saying that this petition is misconceived and deserves to be rejected outright. So a definite setback for all the telecom companies involved, but particularly for Vodafone Idea, because bear in mind, just days before approaching the Supreme Court, they had knocked on the doors of the government asking for further relief, giving a very bleak picture at that, saying that if the relief is not granted, then this could very well lead to a situation where the company is heading into insolvency. It won't survive the winter, they said. They won't survive beyond FY26. But the government's stance has been to Vodafone Idea in that letter. And today, before the Supreme Court, it has been consistent. The government just cannot consider this representation for relief. Their hands are tied, given that the Supreme Court has given a very clear, explicit AGR judgment. So that appears to be the view that the government is taking. So that door appears to be shut. The Supreme Court saying that we certainly don't see it as a fit case for granting any relief, rejecting that application. So a definite setback for Vodafone Idea. The only caveat, perhaps, that we need to add, perhaps, is that Justice Pardiwala, while hearing this matter, made an observation that if the government chooses to help out the telecom companies in question, the Supreme Court will not come in the way, but it does not want to be a party to that ongoing consideration. But the Supreme Court is quite clear. That was an observation. It does not find mention and does not carry the same legal weight as a formal order.
Yes, well, we will have to wait to see now what the next course of action will be for Vodafone Idea. Certainly, more trouble there for the beleaguered telecom company. Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. Now, Moody's has downgraded the credit rating of the United States from the highest level, citing deepening concerns over the nation's fiscal stability. The U.S. government's credit rating has been downgraded from AAA to the second highest rating of AA1. This is the first time Moody's has downgraded America's long-term sovereign credit rating, and this places the U.S. on par with other advanced economies, including Austria, France, and the United Kingdom. Meanwhile, the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent dismissed Moody's ratings and called it a lagging indicator. Take a look.
That Moody's is a lagging indicator. I think that's what everyone thinks of credit agencies. Larry Summers and I don't agree on everything, but he said that when they downgraded the U.S. in 2011. So it's a lagging indicator. And just like Sean Duffy said with our air traffic control system, we didn't get here in the past 100 days. It's the Biden administration and the spending that we have seen over the past 4 years. You know, we inherited 6.7% deficit to GDP, the highest when we weren't in a recession, not in a war, and we are determined to bring the spending down and grow the economy.
Well, that's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. And Moody's downgrade of the U.S. credit outlook has also pushed oil prices lower. Fears of falling demand after China's industrial output slowed in April, also weighing on prices. Meanwhile, the ratings downgrade also boosted safe haven demand for gold. The softer dollar also pushed the yellow metals prices higher, so gold back on the up move. President Trump's sweeping tax cut bill has been approved by a key congressional committee. This would be Trump's first big legislative push in his second tenure. The measure would extend Trump's 2017 tax cuts and reduce taxes on some tips and overtime income. Non-partisan analysts say the bill would add $5 trillion to the nation's already ballooning $36 trillion debt over the next decade. A possible vote on the bill in the House of Representatives could take place later this week, so that's going to be an important piece of legislation to watch. Now, President Trump has also criticized retail giant Walmart after Walmart warned that it may raise prices because of the tariffs on imports. The U.S. President said that the retail giant should stop trying to blame tariffs for raising prices throughout the chain. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said that Walmart should bear the rising costs. The company said that it will work to keep prices as low as possible amidst the reality of small retail margins. And staying with the U.S., Commerce Minister Piyush Goyel is in the United States and is all set to meet U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Sources have told us that Piyush Goyel will assess progress made by delegation-level talks over the last 2 months. Speaking to Fox News over the weekend, President Trump repeated his claims on India charging high tariffs, saying it's impossible to do business there. When asked if a trade deal with India is close, Trump said, and I quote, "I'm in no rush. Everybody wants to make a deal with us," end of quote. Abhimanyu standing by now to take us through what we can expect from the Commerce Minister's Washington visit. Abhi.
Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyel is in the United States. He's going to meet the U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and the U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer during his visit. Also, today onwards, talks between the negotiating teams of India and the United States are going to begin. They are slated to go on from the 19th to the 22nd of May. Several issues are going to be discussed, while the minister's visit is going to provide the necessary political level steer to over 2 months of BTA negotiations. An interim agreement on trade and goods could take place as part of early mutual wins in case both the sides agree. Also, the initial focus would be on issues pertaining to goods and non-tariff barriers. It remains to be seen whether issues like rules of origin and services may also figure in the talks, even as both the sides are looking to conclude the first tranche of the agreement by the fall of this year. Also, there is a 90-day pause in the imposition and the levy of tariffs by the United States, which is going to go on till the 9th of July. And both the sides are sounding confident as far as clinching a deal before that date is concerned. It remains to be seen how early a deal could be reached by both the sides, even as sectoral level engagements are also expected to take place. And India's proposal to levy retaliatory tariffs on steel and aluminium may also figure as part of discussions between both the sides, in which several issues are going to be discussed. But any finality would only be attained only when a deal is inked. So clearly all things till now are not as clear as they should be as far as any finality to the negotiation is concerned.
Abhimanyu, many thanks for joining us. Now, the government has authorized emergency weapons procurement worth up to 24,000 crore rupees for the armed forces. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that the procurement will include loitering munitions and counter UAV systems. Parikshit is standing by with more. Parikshit, what can we expect in terms of the emergency procurement by the armed forces?
Well, this confirms a CNBC-TV18 news break that the government is all set to go in for emergency procurements and replenishment procurements as well. We had reported a few days ago how the industry expects orders to the tune of 39,000 to 40,000 crores for all equipment and ammunition that was used up during Operation Sindoor, and to replace that as well. Now we have confirmation that the Defence Acquisition Council met recently and gave its approval to authorize the armed forces to go in for emergency procurements. Now this is for loitering munitions, anti-tank guided missiles, counter UAV systems, including drones, and also artillery ammunition for the Indian Army. Now the acquisitions will take place for all three services. Each vice chief has been empowered to order weapons and ammunition to the tune of about 300 crore rupees each. We are yet to get an exact number as to what will be the quantum of procurements by the government, but we are told that the upper cap is 15% of the defence modernization budget, which is 1,60,000 crores for FY26. So 24,000 crores is the upper limit. We're told that the numbers could be slightly less than this because deliveries have to be made within a year. So what are we looking at? Well, we're looking at contracts to be finalized in the next 40 days from now. This will include both domestic and foreign suppliers, and we're looking at acquisition of Scalp and Hammer missiles as well. Those will require consent of the Ministry of Defence because they are foreign purchases. Secondly, after finalization of contracts within 40 days, deliveries have to be made within a year. So this may not be all. There may be more acquisitions that the government may be looking to do in the next few months.
Parikshit, many thanks. Now, India's top defence companies are eyeing a bigger order book this fiscal. Prime Minister Modi, in his address to the nation last week, had highlighted that Operation Sindoor was the Make in India moment for the Indian defence sector. We spoke with top executives of India's top defence equipment companies to get a sense of their projected order book. Take a look.
अब हमारे पास करीब 65,000 करोड़ का LCH का ऑर्डर जो हाल ही में आया था, बिगेस्ट ऑर्डर इंडियन डिफेंस हिस्ट्री में है। ये एक बड़ी ऑर्डर है 156 LCH। दूसरी है जो अभी 83 LCM Mark 1A जो एग्जीक्यूशन में है, और 12 Su-30 जो हम बनाने वाले हैं वो एक ऑर्डर था, और 240 Su-30 इंजन्स। कुल मिला के आज के दिन 1,90,000 तक ऑर्डर बुक है, और ये अगले साल में और ज्यादा होगा।
We currently have an order book position of about 691 crores. But again, we are expecting a few more orders in this and the next quarter. We were saying about 800 crores in the first half of the year, and I think we still stick to that. I think that 800 crores is still very visible to us. We should be getting those orders. But with the new, situation, I think the order book position will be substantially higher.
But defence stocks saw some profit booking today amidst concerns over valuation. Shares of drone maker Idea Forge trading at a price to earnings multiple of 124 times, even as it remains 33% away from its 52-week high. Almost all defence companies are trading at a PE multiple of more than 30 times. Sanjeev Prasad of Kotak says valuations are not adding up.
We were just buying anything and everything without looking at, whether the nature of what's going to the same as in the past is trading. Second thing, whether the kind of EBITDA margin many of these companies are earning, whether that will sustain in the future or not, and I'm surprised to see the kind of very, very high margins this company is reporting, so that could also come under some question mark. And the third is obviously the valuation part, which every investor has to look at ultimately, right? Ultimately, you're paying for whatever you're buying, and you look at some of the numbers they make really, very little sense to me, at least, if I look at, let's say, something like a potential PR, since you talked about that, the market cap is somewhere about 55,000 crores. The net worth is only, by the way, 1,300 crores.
Well, a question mark on valuations there as far as the defence stocks are concerned. Now, the Enforcement Directorate has arrested Kumar Goyel, the former chairman and managing director of UCO Bank. The ED said Goyel was arrested on the grounds of money laundering in an alleged bank loan fraud case. Ritu standing by with more. Ritu, take us through the details of what has transpired. Why this arrest?
Well, Shireen, Subodh Kumar Goyel, who's the former chairman of UCO Bank, has been arrested on money laundering charges in this bank loan fraud case, which involves more than 6,200 crores. That is linked to a Kolkata-based company that is called Concast Steel and Power. Now, the arrest was made on the 16th of May, and he's been remanded to ED custody until the 21st of May. Now, according to the ED statement, during Goyel's tenure as the CMD, UCO Bank had sanctioned a large credit or a large loan to Concast Steel, which was later siphoned off by the borrower group, and in return, Goyel allegedly received substantial kickbacks that were routed through a complex web of shell companies, dummy individuals, family members to really disguise the origin of this criminal money. Now, this included cash, luxury goods, immovable property, high-end hotel stays, and so on. The ED has said that it identified several assets that were tied to these shell entities and directly linked them to the diverted loan funds. The ED also said that it found incriminating materials that detailed these illicit transactions during searches that were conducted in April at Goyel's residence and those of his associates. Now, earlier in the same case, we already saw that the ED had provisionally attached about 510 crores worth of assets that belong to Concast Steel and its promoter Sanjay Sureka, who was arrested in December and remains in judicial custody, and further investigation in this case is ongoing. Now, Subodh Kumar Goyel has had a long career spanning public sector banks like Bank of Baroda, Allahabad Bank, including his stint as the CMD of UCO Bank around 2007. Interestingly, as the Chief Vigilance Officer at Bank of India around the time of 1999 to 2002, he also is said to have played a role in unearthing the Ketan Parekh scam. And so the irony of his arrest coming in now isn't really lost on the financial world.
Ritu, many thanks for joining us. We will head to a break, but up next, Uber partners with ONDC for an in-app feature to book Delhi metro tickets. Uber is also bringing back food delivery with a new logistics push. More on that when we return. Welcome back. You're watching Business 360. Israel has ramped up attacks across Gaza, carrying out at least 30 airstrikes within an hour. At least 28 were killed during those strikes in the southern region of the territory. This is Israel announced it will allow a basic amount of food to enter Gaza to avoid what it called a starvation crisis. Prime Minister Netanyahu's office said the move was made to support the army's renewed military offensive against Hamas. From one war-torn region to another, Russia has launched its largest drone attack on Ukraine since the war began. This comes ahead of an expected phone call between President Trump and Russian President Putin. Ukrainian officials said that Russia launched over 270 drones in one night, largely dominating central Kyiv. The attack killed one woman and injured 4 others. The United Kingdom is poised to reset trade and defence ties with the European Union after Britain's exit from the European bloc in 2020, according to a CNBC report. A security and defence partnership has been concluded. Reciprocal access to fishing waters has been agreed upon until the 30th of June 2038. The global power has also reportedly finalised a deal on energy cooperation. The deals were made as UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer hosted European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in London. Well, here's CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Uber has partnered with ONDC for an in-app feature to book Delhi metro tickets. The company's global CTO, Praveen Naga, said Uber is also bringing back food delivery, but with a new logistics push. He also added that Elon Musk's vision of self-driving cars could be the future of transport. Take a look.
We have already a courier product, right? Through that, we actually get a sense of what the needs are. We actually see our consumers trying to get something from the businesses, like go to the store and get some things and so forth. So we already see the product being utilized that way. So it's a natural fit to expand into it while through this. Now, what makes it very interesting is ONDC is actually helping us tap into the sellers and the platforms, which is the hard part of building this out, right? But now ONDC is enabling it, so it's easiest for us to get started. Starting with food deliveries, right? I think then you can imagine the possibilities here, which is a pharmacy delivery, or like grocery delivery, or having healthcare products delivery, retail stuff, right? All these things are very much possible. We already see this in the market. As I said, no, consumer products, people are already mimicking those things to get it, so we can now naturally do this. But it's very interesting with ONDC, what will happen is we're able to get all the small merchants into the platform. autonomous cars is going to play a big role in the mobility ecosystem. It won't be the only play. It will be one of the modes of transportation. Now, at Uber, we strongly believe in it, and we partner with several partners who actually work on autonomous stuff. We launched in Austin, and we're going to launch in Atlanta with Waymo. And we have partnerships with 14 other partners around the world. We launched in Abu Dhabi as well. If autonomous tech is successful in India, Uber will be the first one to bring the tech.
And you can catch that conversation with Uber's Chief Technology Officer, Praveen Naga. That's coming up for you at 6 p.m. tonight. Walmart-owned e-commerce company Myntra is going global. The fashion retailer's forayed into Singapore, aiming to cater to the Indian diaspora. The launch is part of a broader global strategy to tap into new customer segments and build brand affinity. The CEO of Myntra, Nandita Sinha, explains why the company chose Singapore for its international foray. Take a look.
There is a large Indian diaspora that lives across the world, and we want to tap into that diaspora. We chose Singapore first because it's a country where already, around 5% of the Indian diaspora already, visits Myntra, the Myntra platform. Why we wanted to get into this venture was because of the fact that almost 10 to 15% of our traffic on the web actually comes from international markets. So we knew that there was an opportunity where consumers were looking at us.
Well, that's Myntra going international. And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. The news will continue right here on CNBC-TV18. We're back in a moment after a very short break. Stay tuned.